What is up, everyone? Today we are back with another MLB The Show 20 video for you. We are going to be going over showdowns. I've seen people struggle, I've seen people dominate, but most of the time I've seen a lot of people struggling and they're trying to figure out the best way to go about beating these. And I've now have probably completed, I would say, roughly over 65 showdowns, and I have all stage 1 affinities maxed at 70 points. We are not going to start our stage 2 grind yet. We're going to play some Diamond Dynasty ranked seasons and maybe do a couple other side missions just to get some XP and stubs in the meantime, and then we'll be starting the stage 2 shortly. But I'm going to just give you my tips, my tricks, the best way in my opinion to complete these showdowns and maximize the amount of time you spend trying to get the vouchers. Now, before we get into this, if you guys like what you see by the end of the video, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. It'll really help out and keep the channel pushing in the right direction. But today, we're going to get into the showdown and we're going to be doing AL West. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to run down all the missions, the bosses, my tips, my tricks, my thoughts, my roster, I should say order, or what players I draft. We're going to get all into that. I'm not going to really play this showdown all the way through because I feel like a lot of people have already played showdown so many times, so they kind of somewhat know what to expect. I'm just here to help them use these tips to improve their game. So we're just going to run down through this. We're going to go to it. We're going to go to AL West. I'm going to spend 1,000 coins for you guys, or 1,000 stubs. I don't really want to spend them, but it's only 1,000 and we did all the collections the other day, so why not? So we're going to start the draft. I would say, by the way, do AL West first. If you guys haven't done any affinities, they seem to be, or it seems to be the best division to get a bunch of players you're actually going to use for a while in MLB The Show. So our first round, we're going to be looking Jeff Bagwell smacks. Jared Kelenic, sorry if I said that wrong, he smacks pretty well. But Edgar Martinez, if you look at him, all that contact, discipline, vision, power, doesn't really matter about fielding in showdowns. You got to just go for the metas and just go for the people who are going to give you the most offensive support. He's a little slow, but you put him in the cleanup spot and he'll dominate. Oh, and also one more thing that I should mention. When we're going through this draft, if you haven't done affinities or showdowns that much, you are going to learn more as you play them, what cards to start drafting and help your team out, or what players hit and do well for you. But I would recommend that after the first time you maybe play this, see what bosses you play in each showdown, and then that'll help determine how you stack your lineup and who you draft. If you know, like AL West, I believe you face 3 righty pitchers. You face Liam Hendricks, Shohei Ohtani, and Justin Verlander. So you can technically stack more lefties. So if there's a player or two that you're undeciding when you're drafting, maybe go ahead and go with the lefty, because it's going to give you your best chance, if you are not the greatest hitter, to maximize on the righty-lefty matchup. But most of you, or like me, I don't really worry about adjusting my roster in the missions. I just really adjust it on the showdown bosses to give myself the maximum potential of maybe scoring runs and winning. But like I said, if you guys struggle a little bit more at hitting, I would try to maximize and stack your roster best fitting for every moment or every boss, or however deeper you want to go. So we're just going to take Edgar Martinez. He's a good play. And then the next round, this is a pretty tough one because these two relievers are going to, or I should say the starter and the reliever are going to help you out. Marcus Semien is actually a really good hitter. I struggled a couple times with him early on, but he actually slaps and is pretty good contact for maybe his stats not being, crazy up there. Andrelton Simmons is a good player, but like I said, you don't really need defense, and I feel like there's better options to pick. Now, when Ozuna's a pretty good reliever to play in this showdown, just think though that there are some pitching missions that aren't too difficult, but if you don't spend time and take decent pitchers, there's a potential that you're going to fail those missions because you're going to have a bronze player who just can't get anyone out, or who just only throws 92, 93 miles an hour. And the CPU, even on veteran and all-star, they can still slap. There's been some games on certain missions where you should just, or I should have just smacked him. I ended up getting just tore up because I just couldn't get anything by them. I couldn't strike him out. I couldn't do the missions. So keep that in mind. But in this case, I don't really want to waste a gold round already on a pitcher. So I think I'm going to go Marcus Simeon. Now the third round I noticed that you usually do get a pitcher. So like I said, if you skip second round gold, I only would necessarily recommend going for silver pitchers. I feel like there's a lot of silver pitchers who you can do all the pitching missions with, but sometimes you might get stuck on a gold round. I've seen some people say they got 4 pitchers or 4 gold pitchers in a round they needed a hitter. So in that case, you can't really go about that. But we're going to look at these pitchers right here. You can go, they give you 2 relievers, 2 starters. Mike Minor, I would just kind of skip by. Manea's not bad. He just doesn't throw heat. So I feel like he gets slapped around a little bit easy. Soria has good H9, K9, doesn't throw very hard, but he has good pitch speed and good pitch selection. Jose Leclerc, I should say, he is probably, even though his control is really low, I would take him because his velocity, break, good pitch selection, and H9, K9. So we're going to go with Jose right here. I would recommend getting at least 1 good starting pitcher, or try to, and 1 good starting reliever / closer. So in this spot, this is going to be one of my recommended players. At the end of the video, I will be posting a list of like bronzes, silvers, golds, and diamonds who I think if you see them are pretty much must takes, especially if you're kind of borderline on picking between 1 or 2 players, or maybe 1 or 2 players, 2 or 3 players I should say. But Mitch Haniger, he can hit really well. He's a good player. I just don't feel like I hit very well with him on a consistent basis, so I will skip him unless there's other options that are a lot lower than him, and he's the only one to really take. David Fletcher is another goon. That high vision right there makes that contact and power even that much better. But in this round, I would skip Fletcher. I wouldn't even worry about Diaz just because he just isn't there. Tom Murphy is a absolute GOAT. Vision in showdowns isn't too important because most of the missions are on veteran. When you get to the boss level or the final boss level, vision will take into an account. But a lot of these cards you pick up on early, if you finish missions in between the bosses, you'll stack your team, and some of these cards you won't even use. But Tom Murphy is a glitch. I always put him in the 3rd or the 4th hole, most likely the 4th hole because he's got low speed, and I really want high speed guys early in the lineup, but he absolutely mashes. So we got to take Tom Murphy. And then again, we're going to see David Fletcher, Kyle Seager, and Santana. Kyle Seager is actually one of my more recommended players as well. The only problem is he's a little bit better versus lefties, and in this particular showdown, there's a lot of righties, so he might not be the best option, but he does hit very well. But I would go with Danny Santana. Danny Santana is about the middle of the road when it comes to contact and power, but he is a switch hitter, and he absolutely plays, I feel like, over his rating. And he also could play any position, so he could fill in anywhere. If you get stuck and you pick to me 3rd baseman, 2nd baseman, shortstop, he can pretty much play anywhere, so you'll have a bunch of options. So we're going to pick Danny Santana. Our next round, this is where it starts getting a little chippy, and you really need to look at who you want. I wouldn't even waste my time on Mayfield. You already have a catcher. Don't waste your time on Sean Murphy. He's not going to do anything. So that leaves us Julio Teheran or Cam Bedrosian. Even though we've already taken a reliever, I feel like this is just kind of a wasted pick just because he just doesn't throw hard. I really feel that when you take a starting pitcher in any showdown, if they're a bronze in a low level and they don't have even very many pitches, or their H9 K9 is not the greatest, if they have a good change of pitch speed, that's who you want to go for. A lot of the missions, like I said, even if they're a lower tier card, if they have like a 97-hour fastball and like an 80 slider or somewhere around there, and they have good variation, that's the card that you want to take, because I noticed that hitters, as CPU hitters, will start trying to recognize patterns, and if you can throw them off on patterns and sneak 97 mile per hour fastballs high inside, 9 times out of 10 they're going to swing and miss. So we're going to take Cam Bedrosian just because he's another reliever, and I think taking that starter is not going to do anything. So right here, pretty easy take. If you guys have ever used Odor has low vision, but he's got some power. 64 speed, which is a good middle of the road speed in showdowns to keep out of double plays. But his power pop is, he plays probably like a 78, I would say, like a silver. He hits some no doubters that kind of surprises me and probably would surprise you. So he's an easy pick. Now this is going to be a close round. I'm going to skip the starter and I'm going to skip the reliever. Robinson Chirinos has some low-key power as well. 71 against right, 73 against left. Good splits, low vision. So you guys got to make sure you take your time. Chad Pender is another one of those cards who has middle-of-the-road vision, but I feel like he plays over his card. If you guys have ever used this card, he slaps absolutely hard, and he can play pretty much any position. So even though in this position Chirinos would be a better play, we already have a catcher, so it's a no doubt choice to go with Chad Pender. And then we're going to get into our perks. So if you're a person who skips from 0 to 15 and tries it that way, perks are definitely a spot you really want to take your time in. If you play a lot of the missions, you're going to get a lot of perks, and you're probably going to be not even going to use half these later on. But to help yourself out, try to just take your time and see which ones are best going to suit your need. Conductor, I rarely go with pitching ones. I feel like pitching ones are just no point. You really want to help your hitting out. Second win, when running low on energy, pitchers receive a large boost of energy. You don't need to worry about that. You rarely play any missions more than 2 or 3 innings pitching, and you don't really need that boost. Just warm up a reliever and put them in. Lifeline, significant contact boost with runners in scoring position and 2 outs. This can save your butt a good amount. You're down 2 outs. You need something to happen. Get a little bit more of contact boost. Insider info, contact boost on inside pitches when runners on base. So this one doesn't require 2 outs. It's a little less, I guess you would say, well, the other ones I guess you say are just less lenient. I don't know the best vocabulary or the best word to say for this one, but pretty much you can, this one's a toss up. You either go with contact boost with runners in scoring position with 2 outs, or a contact boost on particular inside pitches. I would probably go Lifeline. I've used Lifeline more. I rarely don't go insider info, so I would say pick Lifeline. Next, Last Stand. Again, I wouldn't worry about pitching. When it rains, contact boost while winning. Most of the time when you're winning, you can kind of bunt if you feel confident in your pitching skills. So I would never even take perks that has to do with you winning, because most of the time you're either A, losing, or B, the times that you're winning are pretty easy missions. Lucky 7, the 7th pitch of it in the bat is guaranteed to be a strike. I wouldn't even worry about this. Most of you guys aren't even going to get to 7 pitches into the bat, but even if you do, I still feel like this perk's not going to really do that much. And then this one, running low on energy, pitchers receive an energy boost. So honestly, all these perks are trash. So if I had to pick one, we're just going to go Lucky 7 and just waste it, because there's honestly nothing else. But in case you do get deeper, it'll help your hitting. So we're going to put both those on there. We're going to go to the lineup. So what we're going to do is we're going to look. Make sure, one of my other tips as well is that check your bench. Sometimes there's some glitchy players that they don't put on your lineup, or say your roster, or even your bench. So look, these guys aren't going to make it, so we're calling this one. So this is how I would set my lineup up. Me personally, I set my lineups up generally like my Diamond Dynasty team. I like a good mix of kind of speed at the top, and then lefty righty alternation in the batting order with some switch hitters. When you pick these first rounds, you're probably not going to get that crazy alternative lineup, but do your best. So how I would set it up is I would probably leave how they have it, with Semien leading off, only 65 speed, but he has good pop. I'd leave Semien. They have Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker doesn't have the craziest hitting stats, but he actually has a really good swing and he can do some damage. And with 83 speed, we're going to leave him in the second hole. Edgar Martinez has lower speed, but I think with his contact boost, if you can get those first 2 guys on, or the one or the first or second guy on, I think you really want a hitter who can slap in the third hole. Or even if, say, you get 2 outs, Edgar Martinez can crush jacks with nobody on base easy just as much when people are on base. So I would say we leave Edgar at third. Chris Davis is also a player that I would recommend as far as a bronze tier. If you see him, use him. Crazy power, vision, 40 is not super low. It's low, but not super low. Speed's a little lower, but he mashes. So we're just going to leave him in the 5th hole. We'll keep that. So right here, you can technically switch Danny Santana if you want for Chris Davis. But I feel like if you do that, it's going to stack your lineup a little tougher at the end. So I would just leave Chris Davis here, put Danny Santana, Tom Murphy, keep that alternative power going, leave him in the 6th hole. Odor, I feel like, is a good spot. You could technically, if you really wanted to, put Odor in the second hole. You could switch him with Kyle Tucker. You would lose a little bit of a speed loss, but you'd also get a higher contact, higher potential, maybe getting more base hits since he's a little better player as far as hitting stats. But I'll leave him here. And Chad Pender is a good spot just to leave at the bottom lineup because he slaps. Sometimes if I have, say, a lefty leading off, I'll put Chad Pender all the way up because I feel like he slaps and he's a really good bronze player who hits the ball super hard, but we'll leave him in the bottom of the order. So this is how I would set my lineup to start. I'm going to skip. Obviously, I can't see all these missions, so I'm just going to waste 1,000 stubs pretty much in a sense, and I'm just going to skip to the end, and I'll play these later, and maybe we'll make some videos of me just going through and playing the final boss 0-15. But we're just going to go through these missions and just kind of give you my rough thoughts and my tips on how to beat these missions after playing this showdown and beating it over 65 times.